Hey everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of Grow Limitless. I'm Terry Hedden, CEO of Marketopia, and I'm really excited to kick things off with someone who's been a major force in the IT channel, Gregg Lalle. You probably know Gregg from his time at ConnectWise, and today he's here with me to discuss something that's on everyone's mind, AI. What it is, what it isn't, and what it means for MSPs right now, not just 5 years from now. We'll talk about the big shift happening in SaaS, why MSPs can't afford to sit on the sidelines with AI, and how Gregg's new company, Synthreo, is helping turn AI into something real, usable, and profitable. If you've been wondering where AI fits into your business or how to actually do something with it, not just talk about it, this is the episode for you. Gregg, welcome back, buddy. It's been a while. Hope you're doing well.
Yeah, doing good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, no problem. Glad you could make it. You know, Gregg, you're kind of one of those people that is kind of like a who's who in the channel to me. You have a lot of global visibility into trends. You've worked with MSPs all over the world. You work with one of the most influential, if not the most influential firms in the channel. So I really value your experience. And so what I really want to talk about today is AI and what, I guess what the MSPs need to think about and what to worry about. So, first, catch me up. You know, I know you left ConnectWise not too long ago. You've been sort of heads down, hunkered down, working on some secret projects. I'm eager to learn more about those and catch me up.
Yeah, well, I appreciate the opportunity. Like you said, it's been 15 years at ConnectWise as we've known each other many of those years. And thank you again for having me in and a couple weeks ago for your advisory, your peer groups. So it was very nice to come in, and it was very generous of you to have me come in and speak to your groups as well. Yeah, we're really kind of working on this new model, this new age of AI, kind of thinking about the transition via ConnectWise, what the next step would be. And, looking in the mirror, do a lot of reflecting about where I wanted to go, right? I'm be in my mid 50s and kind of looking for kind of that work life, not necessarily balance, but kind of giving back as we're working as well, right? And so the whole Satya comment about SaaS being dead like floored me. Like as I was going through transition, I was looking about staying in the ecosystem, another SaaS provider. And then I looked and I was like, well, why would someone who's the head of the largest SaaS company out there make such a bold statement, right? And that all became, it just kind of unfolded from there. And so it tweaked that whole curiosity around where AI is, where it's going. And really, the more I dug into it, the more the need that MSPs need to be awakened and understand themselves, because it's moving at such a rapid rate. Like the wait and see approach is really it's not going to work this time, right? So trying to kind of form this company with Vince Kent, many people know in the channel, Jeff Hirth as well, and some advisors, some folks that we have, Ivan, our CTO in Czechoslovakia, this platform to help MSPs build agents to actually, participate in the digital workforce, but also reduce the risk to market. So help them with their go-to-market motions to capitalize on the opportunity that's AI.
So I want to first hit the Satya comment because I just saw that comment. I think it was yesterday or the day before. So I had not seen that before. You saw it a little while ago. Tell us about the comment and why it hit so hard to you specifically.
Yeah, I mean, again, I've been in the channel and with ConnectWise for 15 years, and as we look around, we see everyone's a SaaS company, right? MSPs are in the business of selling, bundling, packaging SaaS companies and doing that.
Yep.
If that's going away, what is the next evolution? What does that look like, right? And so that kind of piqued the curiosity to start digging a little deeper. And really, it's what we've talked about for the last 30 years. It's a pure service-related industry. It's the services that MSPs put on top of whatever that platform is on the back end that they're going to be able to deliver, enable, and help their customers unlock all of the opportunities to drive their businesses to higher ground, to, better, more efficiencies, to grow their revenues, better interactions with their customers. So this whole, the legacy stuff, again, we all know it's not tomorrow. So a lot of people say, well, yeah, it's coming, again, going back to the wait and see. It's not going to happen immediately, but for someone to make that profound of a comment to me meant that there's a fundamental change that people aren't picking up on. And, it shook me a little bit, to be honest with you.
Yeah. So what did he say exactly? And for those of you who didn't see his, I guess I saw it as like an excerpt from a speech, but
yeah, this was from, I think, November or December.
Oh, really?
But just commenting again. This is because I exited around January, Feb timeframe, comment on the actual, place of the SaaS world. That eventually, again, think of SaaS applications being nothing more than a database with an interface. But if you have a prompt or a user-friendly interface that can prompt any database, or any source. You don't need all of the applications on the back end. You need the data, right?
Interesting.
You just need whatever data you can collect. So a lot of the front end applications, then, where they'll have their own line of business applications they'll develop, ultimately you may want to combine 5 or 6 or 7 of those together in order to get the outcome from your agent. You may not just need the information from one application. So
Yeah.
again, it's going to be that integration to those databases tying into a conversational, user-friendly interface that people feel comfortable with. Every user feels comfortable with interacting with to extract whatever information they want.
So the idea then is, and Satya is Microsoft?
Yeah.
Okay. So for Microsoft to say that, obviously it's going to hold weight, and for Satya to say that, considering it's not his best interest, definitely as the CEO of Microsoft, even though obviously they have a role with OpenAI, but for him to come out and say that software is not the future, should speak to all of us. It should be like a wake up call. And so what you see is AI sort of taking on that interface. Instead of going to different line of business applications, you're going to one interface and telling that bot slash agent slash AI employee, however you're going to call it, I need to accomplish this.
Mhm.
And it does it for you instead of having the human to go to the different software applications, entering information,
Yeah,
that
look,
type of thing.
and I think that timeline you're describing is debatable, right? As far as when
Right.
we get to that point, and that's where I was just posting on LinkedIn this morning, and before I stepped in here, I was kind of chatting back with an MSP online, and there's this internet feeling of the 2000s, late 1999 ish, where people are kind of in this gold rush. They're not sure which direction to go. Again, my whole point or thought process, it's not necessary you have to know where it ends, but directionally you have to get in line and start joining that stream of thought.
Yeah.
That when you're planning your business for your mid-year term, you're coming up in June, you're looking at your business and how you're performing, or what you want to do for the end of the year, or what you want to do in 26, if you can believe it. Probably in a couple of months, people will start planning
Yeah.
for next year. So, how are you going to adopt that it's because of the pace it's evolving as well.
Yeah.
So again, I don't expect that it's going to be here, next week or the week after. But my point to kind of the call to MSPs is a little bit, it's coming faster than you think.
Yeah.
And there are ways to do things elegantly if you start now versus the scramble, I've got to put something
Yeah.
together later on.
Yeah. I think, and I see this huge opportunity. To me, it's like cloud times 100 or 1,000 or 10,000. I felt like the cloud was sort of the next generation of how technology was going to be delivered, but the old one would still be around. Whereas it feels like with AI, it's like almost like a tsunami coming at us, and it's coming after individuals, especially knowledge workers, doctors, lawyers, accountants, architects, IT people, people that depend on the knowledge and skills within their brain to be effective. And all of a sudden it's going to be it's going to rock the world of all of those people. And I feel like MSPs are uniquely positioned because they not only face a risk like a librarian would or like an attorney would, but they also are like incredibly well positioned to take advantage of it and capitalize on it and ride the wave. They're not going to be mowed over, at least if they get on board and they start paddling, using the surfing analogy. It feels to me like one of those once in a lifetime opportunities that if you get on board and start surfing the wave and riding the wave, it could propel you to stratospheric success, not just. I feel like MSPs, and I'm just as guilty, and I'm sure you are too. Sometimes we kind of get so thought up into okay, it's $20 more a month, it's $100 more. A big customer is 3,000. All of a sudden, if you can really ride this wave right, you might double or triple profit in the near term, and at the same exact time mitigate the risk about what the future might bring. It's like, I don't know. I kind of see it as that. And I share your concern in terms of MSPs not seemingly understanding either the opportunity or the risk. They're just sort of like, yeah, let's just wait and see.
Well, I think there's a risk to doing nothing, and then there's obviously a risk of, data privacy, the risk to AI doing something that, as a representative of their company that's going to do
Right.
something that's going to fail. So I think there's a lot of different risks. And again, it'd be remiss if we didn't say it starts with a responsible, ethical AI policy.
Right.
Something we've talked about in
Yep.
the user groups is like every MSP out there, I'm talking to them every day. Many of them don't have a responsible AI policy like they have a security policy for their own colleagues. So how do you expect them to know and be knowledgeable the fact how they should be interacting with AI? Because OpenAI isn't asking permission to come and downstream and talk to the end users, right? Google built 35 million chatbots. This is per their last earnings release. none of that came through the channel. They're not asking permission to address SMBs or businesses or anybody to come and interact. And so, like it or not, at this point, MSPs are somewhat being left out of the conversation. Now, again, we're
Wow.
not in widespread adoption yet. It's coming mainstream. But what I'm saying is I think this is the point where MSPs have to insert themselves in
Yep.
the supply chain and make sure that they know that the value they bring is that knowledge, is that training, that they can help them use it responsibly, effectively, and, stay ahead of the curve, because as we said, it's just going so fast.
Yeah, was it 500 million people a day are using ChatGPT or something?
I think it's a weekly figure. I'm not sure,
Is
but I
it?
think it's 500
Oh, okay.
million a week. And I looked up as of March, it was like 400, because I looked at their projections, but they project 1 billion by December. So 1 billion people on the
Insane.
planet, on a weekly basis.
Especially when it's not the only chat.
or
It's
something.
not the only AI platform. That's just one of them.
Correct.
If you add them all together, it's going to be darn near, half the
And people
population
feel
of the world or
empowered.
more.
Anybody who goes there, you feel empowered. You get this information. You're like, wow, this is like I walked into a library talking to me.
Yeah.
Right? And we're doing voice to text now. Now you don't have to stop and sit on a keyboard. You can be driving, in your car and communicating and be getting the information back, your reports compiled, whatever it is for you to go back to the office.
Yeah.
You have your information, right? So the efficiency, what you can do with productivity is going to just be incredible.
What it reminds me of is like, I don't know, you remember the Holiday Inn Select commercials where it was like, they become an expert because they say the holiday. It's kind of like that. Like you could become like a mini attorney in like 60 seconds
Yeah.
by asking ChatGPT to come up with a legal agreement, a non-disclosure agreement between two parties.
Yeah, you don't have to be dangerous.
Yeah.
Again, I wouldn't be so assumptive of the professions that we could go out and replicate exactly what they do. But it does do enough in the folks in those professions that they're rattled by it. They understand the power.
Yeah.
We're just getting started, right?
Yeah.
So it's only going to get better from here. And that's the point, I think, is to try to get people in the mindset of going, okay, I'm at ground zero. It's time to start building.
Yeah.
And this is where when we talk to MSPs, it's not about, holy heck, you've missed the opportunity, jump in, do something for something's sake, right? It's about a methodology and approach that's going to take some time to build and put together. So you want to do some testing of your GPTs, of your models,
Yeah.
right? It's going to take time to evolve. You're not going to just stand something up and start, making
Right.
money tomorrow.
Right. Interesting. And I feel it and see it. I love the passion in you, by the way, Greg. It's some at different stages in your career when I've talked with you, you could tell you when you're amped up about something. And this is definitely one. Like this is keeping you up at night. This is making your heart beat fast and you enjoy talking about it. I think it's a really cool thing. And honestly, I think the MSP community needs to hear it. They need to hear from someone like you that they trust, that's been around a long time. And for you from ConnectWise, talking about something, a CEO of Microsoft also saying, hey, this is a big deal. It should be a reality check to everyone who's listening, is trying to figure out is, can I just keep my head in the sand and just keep status quo and keep making $150, $250 a month per user as a managed service provider? And I think the answer is no. I mean, not only do you face the risk of employee counts and your customers shrinking, but also I see it almost in Marketopia, AI, I feel like hit our industry first. I feel like the content writer role, I felt it was the first one to get attacked, where it's just like a 500-word blog on why Gregg Lalle would be the best friend in the world. And it would literally come up with something in 30 seconds or less. Whereas a copywriter used to get paid $2 a word to write that. And now ChatGPT creates something that isn't as good maybe, but it's probably, it depends, arguably 80%, 90% is good in 30 seconds for free.
Yeah.
So it came to us first, and in my world, at least, it feels like that. And now I think it's spreading. But how I present it to my team is that it's like Iron Man. It's a normal human with an exoskeleton that makes them into a superhuman, a superpower, a hero, just that can help save the day by basically being their capability being multiplied. I see that's what AI is, at least right now.
Yep.
Obviously that there's going to be the people who are wearing that exoskeleton that can accomplish far more, far faster, far cheaper, and potentially far better than a normal person doing it the old-fashioned way, trying to go against Iron Man. And that's not going to end well for that person.
Yeah, and that's what we're really trying to do with MSPs is wake them up and go, they have to be the enabler.
I agree.
Right? Even coming in here to talk to you, I was thinking to myself, your background in consulting is so applicable today, right? I go to, and as I'm talking to MSPs, I'm going on their website before I talk to them, and it says, hey, we do IT support and 365, and we have backups. And like, People, they want to, even small business need to know about staying agile
Mhm.
and transformational in this time
Yep.
of AI and how you can bring and change your business. So the wording, the attitude has to
Yep.
change for MSPs. We talked about this for a long time,
Yep.
but it needs to happen now
Yep.
because of that is what's required to deliver AI is to know the business intimately, not just the
Right.
technology. So that mind shift from the MSP needs to occur where they need to start looking and going, I know, again, I know all the IT tools and the systems they use. I know nothing about their operational workflow.
Right.
That has to change. And you have to start billing yourself as an
Yep.
MSP, as that consultant. And if you can't convince your current customers, I'm telling people now, go get new ones.
Yeah.
Like now's a great time even to do marketing about responsible AI, whatever it is, to get people to raise their hands to start conversations
Yep.
and bill yourself to them. They won't know any different, right? They'll see you as a consultant if that's what you come out of the gate doing, and we'll help you do that, right? So that's the whole point of trying to speak differently, act differently, because you're going to need to. You won't be able to
Yep.
do that as a technologist.
I think MSPs, and I appreciate what you said about consulting because I think this is, I feel like in the SMB market, consulting was almost impossible because people wouldn't be willing to pay what it's worth because the cost saving to a florist for high level IT advice wasn't enough to pay for that person. Whereas the enterprise obviously was huge. I remember my first $1 million sale as a consultant at Ernst& Young I was 23 and General Electric was my client. And I was teaching them how to, uh, you know, merge systems and do post-merger integration and $1 million was nothing. Whereas the SMB market, that's called sales. It's like a cost of sale. The most valuable thing that an MSP offers is the advice on what to do. Yet our industry has always given that away for free. It's like a sales cost. Whereas AI is the first one to me. It's like, listen, some MSPs that are too technically oriented are not going to be able to do it. They don't understand business enough. But for a lot of MSPs, are a business person. They do understand what AI can do. If they just start using it themselves, they'll quickly gather enough knowledge and experience to help other people navigate the thing. It's not like you got to go to college for 8 years to learn how to use AI. You just have to install ChatGPT
Yeah.
internally and use Copilot and start embracing the AI integrated with different tools like ConnectWise or Data or whatever, right? AI is everywhere.
And it's not theoretical. It's here now.
Literally,
So
yeah.
people keep saying it's not here. There's pieces of it here now. Is what it's going to become here now? No, but there's pieces of it
Yeah.
now that MSPs need to get their hands on and start working with, so that they can become consultants and
Yeah.
advisors to that technology.
What do you think? Talk to me about it. I mean, I hear these words like agentic AI. Walk me through the different types of AI. Where are we now? Where are we going?
Yeah, well, look, agentic AI is in existence today. It's not common practice, but think of an autonomous car. It was just out in Phoenix a couple weeks ago. That car's going by. There's nobody no one in the driver's seat, right? And no one was in the passenger seat. It was just an empty car at that point. But I've seen them go back and forth. It's picking up all. It has zillion sensors on there, picking up everything that's out there from weather conditions to traffic lights, to buffers in the lanes. It knows where it needs to go. It's not quite sure how to get there yet because it doesn't know what the best route is, right? Something closes down, it'll automatically pivot and change. So you have to think about agentic as being something that has the ability to make decisions, can have its own autonomy when given the right skill set and trained over time. You see these cars, again, some of them haven't made it. I think there's one or two that have already folded. I know there's one like at CMU at Carnegie Mellon. I think that they had it going for a while and they closed it down. But there's a couple that are still going, obviously the Waymos and
Hmm.
the Elon Musk and all the robo taxis coming out. So if you think about something that has autonomous, you have something people are using agent, like again, loosely, if it's just a GPT, if it's an RPA. So if an RPA is just
What's
stringing
an RPA?
together. So if you're just processing and you're saying do one, do two, do three, you get outcome four. You do it on a repetitious basis,
Okay.
chain these together, right? Whether it be in a certain language, but repetitiously, so that I get that result. And then I don't have to consume that in due time. And that's great. That could feed into an agent because that might be an input. By doing that, you get to a certain point,
Yep.
and then you might want to have it make its own decision by seeking other information. So you have the RPA piece of the component to it, which again is critical because it helps automate. You have GPT, which is you can do chain prompting, same thing. You kind of connect these chains together
Okay.
to get them to do something, right? But in the end, you have to have it, where we're going is the digital twin, is somebody who knows as they spend time with you digitally everything that they know about you. Someone could query you if you're busy. I could say, "Give me virtual Terry," And what would Terry say? What would Terry do? Right? Because if it's spent time with you, it's been fed all of the information, it has consumed every podcast you've done.
Yeah.
Right? And you keep feeding the beast. I keep calling the agent the beast. Feed the beast with everything you have. It's going to get smarter and smarter. So you have something that can eventually be, you talk about productivity. Think about how many times
Oh yeah.
you repeated yourself. You've said the same thing.
That'd be great.
Whatever, Terry in a
Take
box,
that. Yeah.
virtual
Tearing
Terry, whatever you call it. Yeah,
My
whatever you call it.
teammate find that scary. Yeah, a scary movie,
But
but yeah.
doing other things
Yeah.
while I'm saying while people are answering questions, and there's always there's a human on the loop or in the loop, and there's a human on the loop potential, right? And that's what we believe in, kind of the ethical piece right now. Where we're at is you have to trust and verify. So humans have to be, as you said before, using this technology, ingrained in the technology.
Yeah.
There will be a time, I believe, where it's going to become more and more powerful, where it's going to be more and more trustworthy. But we're not there yet, and there's for good reason. I think everybody needs to kind of put their finger in it and test it multiple times. I'm not here to say accelerate AI at an irresponsible speed or at a rate that becomes dangerous. But there's things out there now that can absolutely, like I say, increase productivity, interaction, again, the marketability of your business, all of those things that, as you know, I'm sure your staff and your colleagues are using today.
Yeah. I think again we were more on the bleeding edge of this. It came in and I think being a copywriter has been one of the hardest
Of
jobs
course
in the
you,
world
of
in the
course it
last
is.
2 years.
Yeah.
But it's affecting everybody. Designers, finance, it's really creeping into every role. But so far we don't really see it. We see it as a way to make a person more efficient and more productive and more successful. But it's not like it replaces a team. It doesn't, it may make one person capable of doing the work of two, but it's not like it's, uh, all copywriters can stay at home and collect a paycheck, even though the AI bots
Correct.
are writing the work for them. Um,
But it's incremental steps, right?
Definitely.
But you can see, I guess what I kept saying is you have to be the visionary to see
Yep.
where it's going.
Yep.
And at what point you decide to get on that highway,
Yep.
I think you hit the on ramp. That's up to
Yeah.
every MSP or every individual.
Yep.
But it's going that way.
I don't think there's any question. Everyone has to get on board.
Right.
Whether you're an employee, a business owner, an MSP, or an attorney. We talked about attorneys. I don't see what the alternative really is. To me, this isn't the kind of technology. This isn't like a new iPad coming out that might make someone, at 1% more productive or whatever. It's like, okay, this is a transformational shift in the way technology operates and what technology can do with us and without us. Like, I don't see really the option. And frankly, I find it mind blowing that MSPs literally don't jump on this train. It just seems like an incredible way to get more customers, help your customers from a business perspective, cut costs more or improve productivity. I see it as a way for them to come in and elevate the level at which they're operating the company to more of an advisor or consultant versus a tactical, screw turner kind of dust bunny removal kind of role that some people have fallen into. I feel it's an easy leg up on the chain of influence that you can have with your customers. And with that step up, there's a tremendous change in bill rates, in stickiness, in value, and we're seeing big opportunities in managed services revenue that AI can bring, as well as consulting project revenue to help implement and do some of the things you were talking about earlier, where you're configuring it and picking the tools and then helping sort of be that Sherpa for them, guiding them down that AI journey as a
Mhm.
consultant. Do you see that same
Yeah, I
opportunity
think
or?
so. Yeah, I mean, look, I think I was watching. There was a video from Jay McBain, I think last week or whatever. I don't know if you saw it or not, but one of his comments, it was either a short thing or it was long. I can't remember how long it was, but he said one of his comments was said, "Where there's mystery, there's margin."
That's
Right?
right.
And he's like, when you see the technology waves, when they haven't been figured out yet, and someone has to figure them out, you're going to get paid to do all these things. Eventually, these things you're talking about probably will be commoditized.
Hmm.
Right? Some of those things the margins will come down. But I said the people that are consultative, I do think that there's an opportunity.
Hmm.
But it requires a mind shift change. As you're talking about people like the folks that have kind of gotten that mindset of this is what I do. I'm going to turn my ship a little bit at a time, or I'm growing my business. Um, I'm already, I'm hitting my targets. I don't need to incur, which is to me, I perceive this as risk because it's diverting me from where I need to go. And there's some truth to some of that, right? You can't chase shiny objects.
Right.
So you have to put that on the scale and go, how shiny is it? Is it really shiny, or should I not be dedicating some part of my mindset or my team's mindset, the time, talent, and treasure in order to start developing and
Right.
looking into it? So that's what I'm saying. Before it's too late, and you got to do a fundamental shift. And I think when you talked about, you hit a very, important point is there was the World Economic Forum. You can look it up online. said there was going to be 14 million jobs lost by 2027. And this was a couple years ago. It was commissioned in 2023. So it was about a 5-year study. They've tweaked it a little bit since then, but they don't say where the jobs are, what kind of jobs. It just says, that many jobs will be lost due to, AI. And so we know new jobs are going to be created. There's also studies that say they're not the same rate. I can get you that data. I think it's 83 lost, 16, which is a net of 14, 69 gained, which gets you that 14 million, which was from their survey. So minimally, and this is, we'll go back and forth today, minimally, people aren't going to hire as fast. Businesses, they're going to use AI when someone leaves. They're going to want to have them investigate every bit of AI and leverage. How can you be more efficient instead of me hiring somebody else? And worst case scenario for all of our sakes, but it's going to happen, is that they'll make somebody redundant and say, I've actually got AI to do this. Instead of 4 copywriters, I got 3.
Yeah.
Because the 3 I have are more efficient. They're my top 3, and I can afford to. So it will lead to labor changes and disruption.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not trying to, when we talk about this, I don't want it to come across as fear and Armageddon and cause panic, because a lot of people will go, well, this is just all, pie in the sky. And it isn't. But it doesn't also have to be fearful. You just have to get on board, I think, at some point.
Yeah. I love that. I love that statement. You have to get on board at some point, and there's not a lot of benefit, especially if you just look at it from your perspective. If I say, "Hey, Mr. MSP, there's some tools out there that can make your techs even better." Why not? Like, what's the downside to jumping in, at least internally, and and getting a start? At the worst case scenarios, you spend $30 a month you didn't want to spend. It's not like it doesn't have to be incredibly expensive to dip your toe in and get going. But the upside, so the downside is rather limited. The upside is potentially infinite. If you can, if you get the knowledge by using it yourself, to have the confidence to start advising others, and then parlay the knowledge equals confidence equals sales, all of a sudden now parlay that into a new line of business, something that I think you can get 250, 350, maybe $450 an hour for most MSPs. That's a multiple of what they're currently enjoying. And do you see that kind of opportunity for them? Do you think that them drinking the Kool-Aid and using it internally is the ideal starting point for someone who's maybe trying to decide what's the best course of action?
Yeah, I think it is, because I also think as technologists, that's what they want. They want a tool to, what am I going to be building? What am I going to do? Right. That's where the mindset goes to, versus I need to understand the business problems and then go figure out how to create. Right, we talk about, even agentic AI, we talk about a right to left movement, where before it's, hey, I've got these tools and I could build these things in this fashion. Don't worry about the tools. We'll go find the data wherever it resides. Figure out what the business problem is that really hurts that customer, and then let's figure out how to go build that and go solve that. Right. So it's kind of a right to left a little bit, from working from the resolution backwards then to what.
Oh, I don't understand the analogy. Okay.
Yeah, from moving left to right. So I think it's an incredible opportunity. And I think that internally, that's what they have to start piecing together, and that motion is relatively painless. You can do it in a side environment. We talk about, again, I talk to MSPs. I could tell you over 50%. And I won't say what the number is, but it's a big number, don't have, again, policies in place for their own colleagues to be in a secure fashion navigating. So they've got to get their own house in order, and that you could do that now. It only makes sense to do that. Like, you can't afford not to do that. Right. So you've got to do it anyway.
Yeah.
So why don't you start working on that? And then the lessons you're learning about getting your own house in order are going to translate when you go talk to your customer.
Yeah.
So they're mutually applicable. It's not like you're learning something and throwing it away.
Right.
When you learn something, you just modify, tweak it to the SMB, but the principles are all the same.
Right.
Every MSP wants to grow their sales team and their marketing team. Well, how can they leverage automation to do so? They want to become more operationally efficient. They want to become, on their back end, their accounting, right? So all of those things they can start developing internally. And again, it takes a while to curate it. And talking to one MSP, I told him last week, I said, for me, if I was running a business, I would put up bonuses every week and go, like, maybe it's pizza and beer for, $25 or $50, whatever it costs now at the local pizzeria, probably more than $25, but for you and your partner, whoever, to go out on a Friday night. But it's, have a ballot box, like a suggestion box, and whoever comes up with the best, GPT idea of the week to drive efficiency in the business wins every week.
That's cool.
And how many are you going to get? You might get 8, 10, 12, 15 different ideas, of which you're going to give money away. And those are things that you incorporate into your business practices, right? And people feel like they're actually contributing. They're helping to run the business. So there's creative ways, I think, that people can get their colleagues on board. They can provide it in a secure fashion. They know what's going on, and they can help, make the impact and drive the business.
So what I hear you saying is, you're your first customer and your implementation team is your team. And you're motivating. You don't have to have all the answers to get started. You don't have to know where you're trying to go. You just know that you're gonna start, and then you're gonna enlist your team and all the aptitude and horsepower of that team to help make your first customer you the best it can be. And in the process, you're learning, you're getting experience. You'll have stories to talk about, success stories, failure stories. You'll learn how to win on the implementation, which will give you the confidence to learn how to win on the sales side. Is that kind of what you're saying
Yeah,
there?
I think that again, the companies have to decide at what level they can go at it because it's
Yeah.
daunting. If you're like, hey, I'm going to
Yeah.
dedicate time and resources, and not to get too far into a plug, but what we do is we reduce all that risk. Like for Synthreo, what we're doing is taking on all that responsibility. So if someone says, hey, I want to go on that journey, I'm working with them, taking my 15 years in the MSP space, that knowledge, helping them globally with a go-to-market plan.
Yeah.
To figure out what their unique value proposition is. What industries do they serve? Do they want to narrow in on? What type of sales and enablement collateral do they need? So building this toolkit for them to help them get to market, right? Helping them with the responsible AI policy, helping them with a gap document to figure out where am I as an MSP and where do I want to go 3 to 5 years
Yeah.
from now? Do I want to hire AI architects and use case managers, or do I want to rely on Synthreo to help me do all that stuff, which we do all of those things. So what we're trying to do is reduce the time and the risk for MSPs to get to market by saying there's an opportunity to go get it, and we can help you get there sooner in a more disciplined, structured way. We're using the frameworks we have, the tools we have to help you build, and then get to market. And so we will help you build that out.
So that's what's getting you so excited.
That's what's getting me excited.
All
Yeah,
right.
that's
So
that's a
first
pot,
of all,
that's a pot of gold at the end.
that's the pot of gold. All right. All right. Well, first, how do I spell Synthreo? How do I spell it?
Synthreo.
Synthreo. Is there a reasoning for that name? Did it come from somewhere?
Yeah, synthesis it's on the website. This is Synthreo, kind of the divine interaction of everything, right?
Okay.
It's kind of that combination of
Okay.
the two. Yeah.
And so, what's your role there?
So I'm the president.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're leading the charge.
I'm leading
So
the
that's why
go-to-market,
you're so
leading the
excited.
go-to-market.
That's what's keeping you up at
That's
night.
what's keeping up.
All right. That's cool. Great. I'm excited for you. I think you're in a really good spot. And frankly, if I was an MSP right now, I'd be grasping for two people. One is someone who's going to help me figure out what to do for my customers. And it feels like that's kind of where you went,
That's where
right?
we're going,
You're
yeah.
going to help people get them started with that use policy, but also be there to help as a consultant to the consultant, which of course gives the consultant their own superpower because they have a team of behind
Correct.
them. They don't have to start with all the answers. They don't have to start with all the engineers. They can start with a phone call to you, and you can sign them up into this program. I'm sure you've got some great entry points that aren't too daunting.
Yep.
And then you'll kind of guide them through what it's going to take to stand up the business, start making money, and probably pay exponentially more to themselves than they have to pay for you for help, I'm assuming.
Yeah, and it's navigating the transition to that to that evolution. As we talked about, you're not going to just flip a switch. You have to decide, you have to look in the mirror and go, am I going to build a team? What does it take to do that? How do I budget and figure that out? Right. So there's a lot of conversations around internal and their own strategy that they need to evolve and their own go to market. But then they should be out there again. They could be out there having the same conversations with their customers right now. Right. What is their strategy? What do they want it to be? What are their big pain points and help? So again, there's AI for ops. And you think of companies like Thread and such that actually do that piece, right? That help the MSPs become more efficient and really drive that to the business, the MSP's business. We kind of are focusing, not that our platform can't do that. We're focusing a lot more on the interface to the customer, right? How do they monetize it? How do they start these conversations? How do they transform to a consulting business truly? And hopefully, again, position themselves in a different light to their customer. And it's going to be hard. Like again, some have the customer for 10, 15 years, right? They know them as the people who fix my cracked screen or, reset my password.
Yeah.
You're not the guy who's going to come in and talk to me about growing my business.
Right.
And they need to make it about that because if not, somebody else down the street will.
And I think that's the risk, right? It's if I'm an MSP and I love my customers and I want to get more of them, there's no bigger buzzword in the world right now than AI. So it's a great way to get a conversation going. And I can tell you, we've got 100 MSPs that are getting more leads because they're leading with AI. They're adding pages to their website. They're adding campaigns to their marketing. They're basically eating it themselves, using it, consuming it themselves, and learning while marketing it to get new customers. And and getting out there and generating money to pay for that transformation. In terms of paying for your tool, all it takes is one customer, and that's going to be what they need in terms of engaging you to help them grow their business, right?
Yeah, I mean, and the cool thing again, so there's a model we have that has obviously with a piece of the tool a cost, but it's more about a flat fee. We're trying to flatten it out. So if you run a lot of tokens, you see a lot of different pricing models for AI, right? If you have a lot of memory, a lot of tokens, we're flattening that out to try to make it very predictable for MSPs, so that they can just pay a flat fee. They can go and we can work on the business at hand, which is getting AI out the door.
So from an operational billing perspective, it's really just another recurring service that you're offering a subscription on that's got a fixed monthly fee,
Yep.
and you buy it. What kind of margins can, if take out the consulting, it sounds like you're really focused on the, obviously helping on the advisory and implementation, but also the recurring side.
Mhm.
What kind of margins can MSPs expect on both the consulting side and the recurring from your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'll just talk on the product side, on the portal itself that we have, which is a window to the world. It's the GPT interface look
Okay.
like, right?
Okay.
You're looking at 100%, you can make on that.
100% markup.
Yeah,
So 50% margin.
yeah,
That's beautiful.
yeah. And so you've got that, and you've got when you get to the actual agent, that we kind of leave that out in the open. We charge the MSP 250 a month for an agent that's custom built. Right, we recommend $699, $700 a month. So if you can't solve a problem, it's going to cost the customer $8,000 to $10,000 a year. You should look for something else, right? Time savings, all of that. If you can't put it in a calculator and figure out that it's going to be that much, then we should probably kind of look to something that's a little bit meatier. But if you have that, then you can look. Again, we're charging 250. You get out the door. Say you get 500, you got the same markup. Right?
So if I'm not an expert on AI and the buzzwords, when you say an agent, is that the same as like a virtual employee? Is that a good way of thinking about it?
Yeah,
Because that's a big number. $8,000 as an opportunity slash problem is a big number,
yeah.
but it's nothing compared to the salary of a person. Is that agent a virtual employee? Is that what you're seeing in terms of the
You
opportunity?
could kind of think of it as both. You can think of it as an assistant, right? An HR assistant. Think of
Okay.
and probably the most widely practical application would be everybody has multiple sources of truth for their HR. And in order for a colleague of any company, they usually have to go to 5 different spots. Where's the payroll? Where's this? And on the back end, there's no reason why you can't have memory. You can't put all of those as an MSP in your own storage. And you can actually query that and get rid of all the questions actually in a conversational way.
Yeah.
All your colleagues can ask the questions and get the answers. Now the data has to be good.
Right.
Right, you've got to you got to make sure, and that's where the training and make sure that the results coming back. If something seems amiss, you've got to go through and make sure what you're putting in there is good. But that's why you got to build it and test it.
Yeah.
Every document that goes in there, make sure that when you're putting in that repository, that it's been looked over, it's tested, it's good to go. But as you keep putting reliable data in there, it's going to give you great answers and be able to scale. So it could be assistants, it could be, a lot of law firms assistants, right? You think something like that, combing databases, looking at historical cases. Predictive even analysis of how people ruled in the past. If I had all of these cases and I have a case that looks like this, what are my chances of winning this case if I go at this angle?
Wow.
Right. So taking and using the analytics of the data itself and saying why were the rulings this way, and what would you recommend? How would I argue and litigate this case? You could ask it, right?
Absolutely.
And so that's what it has to do is consuming all of whatever you put into it. Obviously, it's going to consume. So it could be an actual function, a line of business function, or it could be again a predictive, analytical an outcome that you win one case because of it,
Right.
or it helps you. Is it worth $8K?
Right.
Sure. Right.
So
So
you charge for it too, I'm sure. They can charge some sort of overarching fee for the technology.
yeah. So as an MSP, you want to have the reoccurring. So
Right.
you want to have the project work of creating the agent or setting it up and that kind of stuff. But you want a reoccurring of bringing them new ideas on AI. Right, on agents and continuing to work with them. And what we didn't touch on was, again, the more assistants or agents that you have in your customer's environment, it's really hard to pull you out as an MSP, right? The retention, your stickiness.
Yeah.
If you're part of their digital workforce and you've created all of that,
Yeah.
it's very difficult to kind of, change that. So it helps with your retention.
So really, you have ChatGPT and the engines on the back end. You have an interface to them, which Synthreo offers. And then what you're saying, I think, is you're positioning the MSP between the customer and that interface to the AI. and they're putting themselves in as a trusted advisor, as a conduit, and they're really hard to replace because they're the ones controlling what's happening behind the scenes,
Correct. And,
right?
and you're the
Versus
ones
if they were direct to ChatGPT, they could bypass their MSP in a tenth of a second.
correct. And we have, again, with the builder, we have another product we have. So actually, that's the construct. That's the actual how you build an agent.
Okay.
And so they're working with our teams, the MSPs are, to then relay those concerns of the customer, or our use case manager again gets on with the MSP and the customer and says, let's walk through it. What is it you're trying to solve? Let's build that prototype. If we do this kind of stuff, is that nailing your problem, right? So helping you be consultative. If you're not quite there yet,
Yep.
if you could just ask what challenges and problems they have, we can identify those. We'll be the backing to come in and help to show you how to go down that road.
Greg, one of those things to me that I think keeps a lot of people from getting into new opportunities is just that feeling of being overwhelmed with all there is to know, all there is you don't know, all there's opportunity out there, how to sell, how to service, how to get leads. I mean, it sounds to me like you're kind of positioning yourself really as a real partner for an MSP who understands either the opportunity or the risk associated with not doing it, but wants help. And so you and your organization are really positioned to help on the front end, helping secure clients, helping implement, helping support, and sort of being that consultant to the consultant to help make sure that they do it well and they're successful, so they don't put at risk the revenue that they have today and the relationships they have today. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, you nailed it. And again, I wouldn't be so arrogant from my side or anybody to say that our whole team that we've got it figured out. Like, of course, everyone's coming to consult. We're brilliant. We know it's just literally changing that quickly, as you can see.
Yeah.
It's the adaptability.
Yeah.
It's the platform that has the flexibility
Yeah.
to incorporate different language models, different data structures,
Yeah.
different languages, whatever it is. And that's the brilliance, I think, of the back end that we have versus what other people are developing on a silo or OpenAI. Again, OpenAI can sell something to your customers, but they're not going to go and consult with them. They're not going to plan a 3-year strategy of
Right.
how to roll out AI into their environment.
Yep.
And that's what the MSPs have to get in front of, because ultimately it won't take them long to figure it out. They put videos out there. They're going to put where people can do self-service. So we want MSPs to jump in and kind of reassert themselves as the authority and someone to help them along. And they don't have to know it all. So that's why I start by kind of raising my hand. I'm going, it's not about knowing it all. It's about knowing that, again, there's an opportunity there. There's a chance to lead.
Yep.
There's margin and money in that. And we certainly can take advantage of that collectively in a way that's going to help our businesses.
Yeah. And I appreciate that. I think it's probably that sort of sense of comfort and knowing that someone's there to help them, that's going to help MSPs to get through this. Because I can tell you from, we have a lot of experience on more the lead gen and sales side, and there is tremendous appetite for more information about AI, how it can make them more efficient, how it can make them more successful, productive. It's not hard to get an appointment to talk with a prospect about AI. And ironically, it's easier than it's ever been because people almost not only obviously an MSP can offer infrastructure and AI at the same time, but we are able to get appointments with people who already are happy with their MSP. In other words, it's like a shoe-in to get in the door and talk about AI, and then they can parlay that into what what they grew their business on, sort of user support and infrastructure management. So I see a tremendous opportunity, and the apprehension that I see in resellers when they see the opportunity out there from a lead gen perspective is incredible. Yeah, but I don't want to mess up. And so I commend you for having that perspective, and you're trying to be there to help the reseller capitalize on this opportunity and do so in a way that doesn't put everything that they build at risk. So
yeah, and we're not coming across, or should they, as the ultimate authority in AI.
Right.
What they're there is to have a conversation to figure out. It's dialogue,
Right.
right? They're used to having, again, a speed or a feed or something that's very precise. It does the same thing, right? We're not at that point, right? We're there about talking about the business and what could potentially be, and then what is the art of the possible? How can we make that happen? So it's a little different conversation, different mindset.
Yeah. Greg, I know you probably had a lot of opportunities coming out of ConnectWise. You're obviously one of the most influential and well-known and well-respected people on the channel. I wanted to thank you on behalf of the entire industry for getting into, instead of taking a safe route, I'm sure you probably had a lot of opportunities and businesses that you knew quite well, and instead decided to help the channel thrive and survive in what's coming next. And I just wanted to thank you for that, because not many people in my mind have that servant's heart where they're trying to help people make a dollar helping people, make a dollar making a difference, instead of going with a quick buck and all of that. And you probably could have had a lot of opportunities to make a quick turn and capitalize on your experience. But I think what you're doing right now is I'm sure lucrative from a business perspective, but it's also noble because you're trying to help people and make a difference, and helping people out there overcome fear, uncertainty, and doubt about where the world's going and where their business can go to make money.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it immensely, personally. And, again, I think, to kind of think about my journey and the years and where I'm going, right? It's kind of that, from the HCG and Arlen's mentality of kind of, we're in the legacy mode now, right? As we start looking at our careers and where we're
Yep.
going. And so money is important and we all kind of work for things, but, it's if it can make a lasting impact really and really help people transform and make
Yeah.
this, that would be more personally rewarding for me than a paycheck. And that's comes from a career sales guy.
Yeah.
That would be at this point in my life, that's more important to me.
Yeah, that's good. And, I think the reality is this is a big opportunity, and no one knows where we're going to be in 10 years. Hopefully we're all the people in the channel that have been around a long time are sitting in a Caribbean island, maybe on catamarans that are, docked
Tied
to each
together.
other, tied together, drinking Mai Tais and enjoying life. But let's have some fun in the meantime. Let's not be afraid of where the world's going and what we don't understand, because that's where you grow. It's going into something that maybe isn't so comfortable and maybe isn't so sure. And I also think that's where really wealth is created. It's not doing what other people do just a tiny bit better. True wealth comes from trying to do something that maybe is harder, that is scarier, and maybe a lot of your peers maybe are too scared to do.
Yeah.
So with
Well,
your help,
yeah, and I
yep,
appreciate you championing the whole bit too. I think your vision to be able to see that, right, is very important because as a leader in the channel as well, with from a communication standpoint, a veteran, an MSP owner, all of the above,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
That you have that foresight. And again, if it can make a difference of one, two,
yeah,
right? Like I said, I'd love to make hundreds, right?
yeah,
I'm out there, people that really want to go on the journey, that have the right mindset, then it's
yeah.
it's time to get going.
Well, it's Greg, I've seen you in a servant leader capacity. I've seen you in front of our peer group. I can tell the passion for this that you have, the passion for making a difference, man. So I have zero doubt that you'll be successful. And I have zero doubt that you can have an impact, not just in the future, but also today. So I would recommend everybody who's on to reach out and learn more, and don't be afraid. There's a lot of people out there that'll help you get leads, a lot of people that are willing to help you close sales. And there are a lot of people out there that are helping you implement and be successful and make money doing this. So go for it. Don't be afraid.
Yeah, thank you very much,
Any
Terry.
last words to our audience?
No, I guess Gregg L at Synthreo.ai. You can reach me with two G's, Greggl at Synthreo, Synthro.ai.
Awesome. Thanks, Greg.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming in, buddy.
Appreciate it.
Good to see you.